They called it history, a chapter closed, a species erased from the galactic map by the very violence it once wielded, an ending written by the victors. But not every death is an ending. Not every silence means disappearance. And not everything buried has stopped breathing. Humanity, once condemned as the greatest threat to the galaxy, did not vanish. They merely waited. In the shadows of the galactic rim, while the Union's deep space observatory still fixated on gamma bursts millions of light years away, a signal emerged. No protocol, no encryption, no identification, just a reminder. A massive object, clad in metal black as death itself, is approaching, unwavering, unresponsive, unafraid. The Union believed they had purged humanity. But you cannot purge what has evolved in hatred. Welcome to Cosmic Hypothesis, where we reveal the most terrifying theories the universe may be hiding. And today, you'll witness the beginning of what historians would later call the Black Dawn. In the annals of the Galactic Union, there exists a chapter that is barely spoken of, a blank space in the archives, where files are triple encrypted, labeled non-disclosable, and stored only in the top-secret crystalline cores of the High Council. That's where they buried the event, the extinction of humanity. According to official records, humanity was a failed experiment, a species with immense technological potential, but a nature deemed too violent. Interplanetary civil wars, biotechnological uprisings, and antimatter weapon riots, all created by humans, were cited as proof. And so, the Union enacted Clause 47, Galactic Biostructural Reformation for Collective Benefit, a phrase that sounded constructive, but in reality, it was humanity's death sentence. The campaigns were launched silently. No declarations of war, no diplomacy, only artificial neutron storms, sabotaged FTL navigation satellites, and self-destructing supply outposts. Every planet bearing signs of human life was eradicated. By galactic year 3321 post-Union, the star maps had been wiped clean of any coordinates tied to Terra or its diaspora. All records of Homo sapiens were filed under historical references, described as a civilization that self-destructed due to uncontrollable destructive instincts. That was the story told for generations. At planetary academies, Union scholars recited the tale of humanity as a cautionary example of failed evolutionary path. Zarin children, Valorian students, or Kai cadets, they all grew up believing humanity once existed, and then burned itself out through the fire of its own toxicity. Until one day, a signal emerged from the void. It wasn't encrypted. It didn't follow any Union protocol. It wasn't a distress call, nor a diplomatic message. It was just a bare carrier signal, pulsing in a repeating sequence. 13, 14, 13, 14. It took analysts hours to recognize the pattern, an ancient time code from the long-erased solar system. The signal originated from the farthest edge of Sector Zentera, a region classified as undefined, no strategic value. It was first detected by an unmanned monitoring station named Black Halo and then vanished. But weeks later, an object was spotted, moving toward Union space at relativistic speed. Its size surpassed all estimates. At first, Union officials assumed it was a drifting asteroid. But then, it began to decelerate with impossible precision. They realized this was no natural object. The first visual scan, taken by reconnaissance drone R-19, showed only a pitch-black mass. No reflection, no insignias, no communication ports, and no visible propulsion. Yet beneath its dense armor, sensors detected a type of energy never before classified, pulsing like a neutron star, yet stable like a plasma core. An emergency council was summoned at High Command Base on Delaris Prime. Within 24 hours, motion was detected from 3 additional coordinates across 11 frontier stations, all sharing the same eerie signature: silent, unconcealed, deliberate. The council theorized, could it be a new species? An ancient race emerging from a time rift? Perhaps an AI civilization awakened after eons in the void. But then, a seismic coincidence shook the room. As servers mapped the narrowband signal from the object, a data string perfectly matched an archived file from the forbidden database, tagged Origin, Earth, Language, Pre-Union Terran, Format, ASCII, Standard. That file contained only one line: "We remember." No one on the council could explain it. Not because they lacked the technology, but because they refused to believe what it implied. How could a raw text message, encoded in the ancient digital format of a species wiped out millennia ago, be pulsing from an object moving straight toward the heart of the Union? How was it possible that this message adhered exactly to the cultural encoding standards of pre-extinction humanity? When Black Halo lost contact a second time, this time permanently, no one on the council dared to call it coincidence anymore. Humanity was never gone. They were just waiting. And the time they waited for is now. The unidentified object was temporarily designated Object Null, but history would remember it by another name: Naraka. A word taken from ancient Earth languages meaning hell with no escape. But when it was etched across the hull of that titanic warship in blood-dark, shimmering metal, no translation was needed. Any species, any system instinctively understood. It was a warning. Naraka was first visually confirmed by the remote monitoring station Nix-7, stationed at the edge of Sector Mavros, a region long deemed irrelevant. No resources, no life, no threats. But what Nix-7 witnessed shattered every assumption the Union had ever made. A colossal construct, larger than any Union dreadnought, suspended in vacuum, moving without propulsion. No ion thrusters, no plasma drives, no warp engines. It simply moved. Smooth, fluid like a living entity. No heat trail, no gravitational signature. And yet, it surged toward the heart of Union space with terrifying certainty. Military-grade scout drones were deployed. They lost connection in under 7 seconds upon breaching a 20-kilometer radius. Attempts to scan through the hull yielded nothing but chaos, like trying to peer into a synthetic black hole. Every signal was either absorbed or reflected back as nonlinear data noise. Some theorized the outer shell of Naraka wasn't just alloy, it could be sentient material, a form of quantum neural armor capable of perceiving and responding to scans as though it was observing the observer. But the true panic began when Helion Core, a high-tier strategic AI hub, experienced a silent crash after processing an incoming data stream from Naraka. No breach, no overload. It simply went still, as though the concept it was facing could not be computed. That's when the highest alert was triggered. An emergency signal was dispatched to Union headquarters on the capital world, Lycentra Prime. Across the outer ring, weaponized satellites, strategic bastions, and autonomous defense systems were placed on combat standby. And yet, Naraka made no hostile moves. No scans, no messages, no exposed weapons. It simply continued on a perfectly straight trajectory, as if the course had been calculated decades ago. Then it stopped. The moment came in the dead zone of space between the Union's two most critical strategic stations, Alcaris Gate and Zarin Fold, a region considered a tactical void. Unremarkable, unoccupied, unimportant. Now it was the eye of a rising storm. Naraka halted exactly at the gravitational center of a trinary system, a point considered physically unstable. According to Union physics, no object could maintain position there without being pulled apart. Yet Naraka stood motionless, as if defying natural law itself. Within 5 minutes of stopping, the ship began to emit a strange magnetic interference field undetectable by standard scanners. But scientists at Zarin Fold made a terrifying realization. This wasn't an attack. It wasn't radar. It was biological resonance, the kind of neural frequency pattern typically seen during deep human sleep cycles, dream states. But the source was a massive machine with no life, no crew, no biosigns. Panic rippled through Union Command. Some feared it was a mothership of an unknown race. Others whispered darker theories, that it was a god machine, an AI relic, or worse, a living memory of a betrayed civilization. Before any defenses could activate, Naraka made its first move. Every communication channel across the Union, civilian, military, academic, diplomatic, was suspended for exactly 0.86 seconds. No malware, no cyber attack, no brute force, just silence. And in that breathless moment, every screen, every hologram, every transmission node across Union space displayed the same message. We remember. You erased us. We are home. No images. No voice. Just pale white text on a black abyss. Then everything returned to normal, as if nothing had ever happened. But Naraka began to move again. This time, it wasn't alone. Just minutes later, on the opposite side of the Pithros system, another object appeared. Then another. Then 10 more. Radar scans showed each was as large or larger than Naraka. They didn't arrive as a swarm. They came in formation military precision. From the dead zones of the galaxy, a silent fleet was entering Union space. No greetings. No warnings. No retreat. Only one objective: to return to the place that once erased them. Throughout the interstellar history of the Galactic Union, there have been thousands of first contact events, from intelligent liquid network organisms to silent symbiotic collectives. But never once had first contact begun with a threat. Never until humanity returned. The warship Naraka, along with over 20 accompanying dreadnoughts, approached the outer perimeter of the Zentara system, a vital strategic hub for the Union, home to deep-range observatories, FTL trade lanes, and classified military wormhole gates. As the formation of unidentified vessels crossed into defensive range, the Union initiated Alpha Null Lockdown Protocol, a Cold War directive reserved for unexplainable high-risk anomalies. The first question asked, "Is this an invasion?" The second whispered, yet far louder, "Is this their return?" Command fell to Zoran Prime, a key control outpost. Senior Commander Thassel Dre, a 600-year-old veiny veteran who had witnessed 3 galactic wars, once said, "Nothing terrifies me more than silence from the dark." Today, he was right. No diplomatic response. No open communication channels. No alliance protocols detected from the approaching ships. They hovered steady, silent, moving forward like ancient phantoms from a cursed past. As Zoran's defense grids locked onto the vessels, hundreds of plasma cannons calibrated, ready to fire. Naraka halted. No deceleration sequence, no adjustment. It simply stopped. Right at the edge of the defensive perimeter, as if it knew exactly where diplomacy ended and war began. Then, the signal came. No civilized encryption. No data wave complexities. Just a low-frequency pulse, 72 beats per minute, perfectly matching the resting human heartbeat. Zoran's main screen turned black. Then, a face appeared. A human face. Not a filtered biometric. Not a synthetic projection. Not a reconstructed AI model. A living man. Tall, broad-shouldered, clad in a dark, austere military uniform. A deep scar cut across his left eye. His steel-gray gaze carried no hatred but no mercy either. He looked straight into the camera. No introduction. No greeting. Just 3 words, spoken like stone dropped into the soul. Step back, or die. The words echoed through every channel, military, civilian, diplomatic. unfiltered, undeniable. Every translation AI across the Union responded the same. Semantic confidence, 100%. Meaning, irrefutable military ultimatum. Commander Dre remained still. He ordered a reply. Ever a warrior, but still a believer in dialogue before devastation. A message was sent encoded with ancient diplomatic markers under the Union's Extinct Species Protocol, a treaty used only once in recorded history, during contact with the lost descendants of the Ghostari. This time, there was no answer. Dre repeated the transmission. Then the screen changed. The same man, still silent, until he spoke. I am Admiral Saren Voss, Commander of Dominion Fleet 13. I am not here to negotiate. I am here to end this. Your names do not matter, because you signed the death warrant of my people. Commander Dre replied, voice calm. If you truly are human, why return in silence and fire? Voss answered, because we've learned we no longer need to ask for permission. A long pause. A breath between two civilizations. Then Voss lifted his head. The Union was never worthy of mercy. You thought that killing us would ensure peace. But you only planted a seed, and now you face the storm it's become. We don't seek recognition. We don't seek rights. We seek one thing: blood repaid. Dre held his composure, but deep inside, he knew this was not a confrontation. This was judgment. At that moment, all weapon systems in the Zentara sector locked themselves down, not by external force, but by internal defense protocols, unable to classify the intruders as enemy or ally. Every tactical AI across the fleet produced the same assessment. Data insufficient. Threat level absolute. Recommendation: no engagement. Voss looked once more into the feed. We remember what you did, and now you will remember us. Transmission cut. 1 second later, dozens of new warships emerged at the system's edge. No standard FTL signature. No warning. No energy spike. They arrived like knives, slicing through the fabric of night. Inside the command chamber, Dre turned to his aide, a young Kerlith officer, and whispered, more to himself than anyone, "How do you speak? To ghosts of the sins you tried to bury?" There was no answer, because the entire command room had fallen into a silent dread, a fear not born of the enemy outside, but of the truth now burning within. They had buried a civilization, and that civilization had never truly died. Zen Prime was the central station of Union Sector 9, one of the most fortified space bastions ever constructed. With a triple helix ring structure, dual-core energy reactors, and 70 meters of neutron reflective armor, it had withstood 4 wormhole assault attempts, 2 full-scale rebel riots, and even a nearby mutating supernova. But today, it would face what no one was ever prepared for: the return of humanity. Moments after Admiral Saren Voss's final transmission, the Dominion warships, now fully visible, moved into a spiral core tactical formation. A formation long banned in galactic warfare due to its uncontrollable destructive radius. They issued no alerts. They did not target. They simply waited. Inside the command deck of Zen Prime, Commander Garin Olek, a battle-hardened Sarek warrior, initiated Tier 3 shield activation while deploying long-range Plasma X artillery. Defensive protocols were launched. But what followed wasn't a battle. It was a calculated execution. The lead Dominion vessel, designated HSS Furyborn, fired first, but it did not aim for weapons or engines. It targeted the biosphere, the habitat zone housing over 14, zero life forms, workers, civilians, and researchers. The initial strike produced no light. It created a void. In a single, breathless moment, half of Zen Prime's ring structure was stripped of oxygen, heat, and charge. An absolute vacuum carved into the heart of the station. Over 6,000 souls were silently sucked into space. No screams. No alarms. Union cannons responded. Too late. Targeting systems glitched repeatedly. The Dominion ships weren't stationary, but they weren't simply maneuvering either. They transformed, utilizing biphase morphing technology. Their hulls reshaped in real time, rendering all Union AI targeting protocols obsolete. Ships like Vortex Blade and Ash Reaper phased through external defenses like wraiths. One even attached itself directly to the station like a colossal parasite and bored through 3 defensive decks with a molecular drill, completely silent. From within the breach, Dominion strike units entered. Not through teleporters. Not via troop shuttles. They walked through the hole torn into space. No war cries. No banners. Just dark, insignialess combat suits. And a single shared trait. An unbreakable resolve to execute. Zen Prime's defenders engaged on Deck 2, the AI tactical research level. But the Dominion soldiers didn't wield plasma or nukes like the Union. They deployed bioneural weapons, microscopic projectiles that shattered neural pathways. Any soldier struck by a round immediately lost orientation, suffered memory collapse, and turned on their own allies. On the command monitors, live feeds from the biosphere showed Dominion forces moving in perfect, silent cadence. Each footstep followed by collapsing quarters and shredded bulkheads. Commander Oleg ordered deployment of gravity bombs. But before activation, a detonation rocked the control deck. The command center had already been breached. In less than 17 minutes, Zen Prime fell. Not by a bombing campaign, not by antimatter annihilation, but through cold, surgical precision carried out by an army that had erased the concept of mercy. The fortress, once considered impenetrable, now drifted a smoldering carcass in the void. A Union rescue vessel, stationed on the outer ring, captured Zen Prime's final transmission. They don't fight like us. They don't fight to win. They fight to end. The footage reached Lucentra Prime's strategic command. The High Council convened an emergency session, but there was no time left. 8 minutes later, 14 more border stations went dark. The Dominion fleet did not stop. Every action followed a single protocol. Precision, coldness, total erasure. In the council chamber, leaders began to realize the truth. This was not a military campaign. It was a tribunal, and they were the accused. In a quiet basement beneath Lucentra's core, historian Zelian Mir, long dismissed for attempting to publish classified extinction files, stared at the images of Zen Prime's ruins and whispered, "We are not being invaded. We are being judged. And the judges are our victims." The fall of Zen Prime was not just a tactical blow. It was the first strike against the soul of the Galactic Union, an institution that once prided itself as the guardian of civilization, now forced to confront the legacy it tried to bury. In the aftermath, the Union scrambled to contain the fallout. Military communications were locked into override. Civilian channels were severed. Academic networks restricted. Censorship AIs recalibrated with aggressive filtration algorithms. The Union wanted silence, but it was too late. The Dominion fleet's transmissions no longer came from individual vessels. Instead, a single message was broadcast across the entire spectrum in every language cataloged by the Union over the past 70 years. Even dead tongues, ancient Terran dialects, Proto-Orkai, early Valorian script, all spoke in unison. We are the Terran Dominion. We survived, and we have never forgotten. Across the stars, billions of beings heard it. Some didn't understand. Some refused to believe. But all heard it. On Lucentra Prime, within the High Council's war chamber, Supreme Strategist Zelf Thais, a Zalek reptilian, capable of processing 12 tactical layers in parallel, stood before a holographic feed. His expression wasn't strained from military loss. But from what came next on the screen, the Union did not destroy us. They erased our history. They bleached the galaxy's memory. But what is erased is not falsehood. It is guilt rewritten. Within moments, classified Omega-level files began to leak. Censorship systems failed, infiltrated by the very AIs once programmed to guard them. The secrets unraveled. Operation Emberglass, plasma bombing campaigns across 43 human-inhabited worlds. Protocol Scorch, extermination of all data centers preserving human gene codes to prevent historical resurgence. Project Silence, memory, wipe waves used on millions who had lived near or alongside humans to erase witnesses, scientists, officers, politicians. All were stripped bare. No more denials. Human extinction hadn't been a tragic outcome of civil war. It had been a systematic purge. At that moment, Admiral Saren Voss returned to every screen in the council chamber. He didn't hack in. He didn't breach firewalls. He simply appeared as if the Union's own systems were built to listen. He didn't stand at a podium. He didn't sit in command. He stepped forward, his scarred face filling the entire frame. His voice was low, hoarse, clear as cold steel. We lived in the shadows you cast. We buried our dead in the dust you left behind. And we built a society not to thrive, but to remember. When you declared war, you called us a virus. But you forgot. In every civilization, the virus is what always learns how to survive. Council members protested. Some demanded the feed be cut. Others attempted counter-hacks. Useless. Voss wasn't speaking to them. He was speaking to the galaxy. We did not return to negotiate. We did not return to be forgiven. We came to ask one question. After everything you did to us, why should you be allowed to live? Silence, heavy as the vacuum itself. No one spoke. No feed dared to mute. That was the moment the Union realized. War didn't begin with the cannon fire. It began when the truth was spoken. And for the first time, it was not a weapon, not a ship, but memory itself that became the greatest weapon ever wielded. When Voss disconnected, every AI in the council issued the same alert. Internal psychobiological instability detected. Confidence in system integrity down 83%. Emergency Protocol 0 recommended. But it was too late. Amid collapsing morality, exposed lies, and the haunting image of Zen Prime burning silently in the void, only one truth echoed in the minds of every species. Humanity had returned. And this time, they were not victims. They were judgment. No bomb fell. No weapon fired. Yet the Union, that towering empire of galactic civilization, began to crack like fractured glass beneath the silent scream of truth. On Vel Atrum, the administrative heart of the Central Systems, thousands of technology students gathered in Memorial Square, once a symbol of interstellar peace. But now, at the feet of the Sapphire Monument, lay hand-printed copies of the Human Restoration Declaration, distributed through obsolete devices, and passed hand to hand like a challenge. If intellect is light, then memory is fire. And this fire could not be censored, could not be blocked, could not be smothered. The central broadcast towers were not hacked by Dominion. They were breached by Union's own coders, engineers, who had buried their doubts for decades. Now that truth had surfaced, they could no longer stay silent. All across Union space, underground cities began to rise. Once labeled migration ruins, they revealed themselves as preserved vaults of human legacy, hidden and protected for over 300 years. In the Niran cluster, a group of Valorian engineers publicly confessed. They had been trained by human descendants quietly, across generations. The resurgence had already begun, long before anyone noticed. Within newly unlocked archives, they found ancient Earth music that stirred even emotionless synthetics, Recordings of human priests, speaking of love, the kind of love that dares to die for truth. Unprogrammed, unpoliticized. A black and white photo, a human child hugging a powered-down robot, with a handwritten caption, "You're not just code, you were my friend." Beings who had never even met a human now found themselves weeping without knowing why. Pain became a universal language. No translation needed. Inside the council, ideological fractures exploded. Some demanded peace talks. Others pushed for total war, to end the threat before it spreads. But fear no longer came from Dominion ships. It came from the mirror now raised before them. What have we become? If those we called beasts knew how to love better than we did, entire species refused military deployment. On Rentalos, the planet responsible for over 30% of Union energy production, workers shut down reactors en masse and hoisted a banner. "We will not die for a lie." In the shadows of the Icaros Belt, once home to century-old war prisons, a rebellion surfaced. They called themselves the Rememberers. They didn't declare war. They told stories, one by one. Fragments, diaries, whispers. That day my mother told me, "If you must die, die with your eyes open. Don't let them close your truth." We weren't soldiers. We were children raised on the promise that humans would never return. Now I see, they never left. We were just made to forget. And across the stars, the Union's moral system began to burn, not by missiles, but by memory. On Trion 6, retired Professor Zarek, once director of the Human Behavior Decryption Initiative, appeared on live planetary broadcast. "I once called them savages," he said, "but they're the only ones who placed soul above survival. Now I know humanity didn't go extinct. We did." After that, Zarek drew an old model laser pistol, the same one once used to train troops in anti-resistance combat, and ended his life, on screen, before millions. The shockwave spread like a neural storm. The Union's belief system didn't explode. It rotted. And when Saren Voss returned, he didn't shout. He didn't threaten. He said only this: "You want to reclaim your humanity? We don't need to, because we never let it be taken from us." There was nothing left to bomb. No fortress left to breach. The Dominion no longer needed fleets. They no longer needed blood. All they needed was a choice. On the 70 honest day of the awakening, every galactic communication system simultaneously flickered. A single encoded signal appeared not from the military, not from media networks, but from satellites decommissioned over 300 years ago. The signal, in ancient human tongue, read only 3 words: "The choice is yours." Within 24 hours, an encrypted data drop swept across the galaxy. Uncensorable, unstoppable. Inside, documentation of the Genesis Accord, a secret agreement forged 3 centuries ago between a shadow faction within the Union and humanity's earliest surviving remnants. According to the Accord, humanity was not eradicated through war, but through intentional forgetting via cultural deletion, genetic filtration, and memory engineering from preschool age. Human erasure wasn't a consequence. It was a strategy. Outrage ignited across hundreds of worlds. But before chaos could erupt, the Dominion delivered the most shocking offer yet. We did not come to invade. We came to withdraw. We will retreat from your borders. Our fleets will return to the dark sector. We will suspend all activity for 300 light days. In that time, every planet, every star system, every species will vote. Do you wish to live in a galaxy without humanity? Or do you accept the truth and choose to rebuild together? No one could believe it. No leader had prepared for this. Because this was no longer a war. This was a referendum of the soul. And that was the most terrifying weapon of all. Each star system received a single piece of technology, a small bio-interface with 2 buttons. A red button, erase all human memory again permanently. A green button, accept humanity's return as an equal civilization. But the green came with a price. All fabricated data, all falsified histories, all memory interventions of the past 300 years would be fully exposed. And those responsible would face judgment, not by dominion, but by the laws of their own worlds. A simple choice. Yet every finger hovering over the button trembled. On Calthon Prime, the authorities pressed red. Within 6 hours, the people rose. The governor was hung upside down in the central square. For the first time in recorded history, a star system dismantled its own government through neural referendum, cast via the planet-wide mind link. On Uriel, the most robotized world once a human slave planet before the purge, 89% of AI intelligences voted green. They felt no emotions, but they calculated this. Truth is the foundation of freedom. Any system built on lies will, inevitably, self-destruct. In contrast, on Vora Z, the epicenter of anti-human propaganda, the red button was pressed and enforced. 9 days later, all contact with the planet ceased. No sign of Dominion attack. No distress signal. Just silence. Was it destruction or containment? No one knew. And in the dark ring of space, the Dominion waited. No threats. No pressure. They had walked their path. Now they left the rest of the galaxy to define itself. When asked why he chose this path over total domination, Serenvos answered simply, "A victory through force would make you fear us, but a victory through choice will make you face yourself every time you look into a mirror." And as the 300th day approached, the stars glowed not with fire, but with something never before witnessed in galactic history. An entire civilization, millions of species, standing before the mirror and asking one question: who are we without our past? At the precise 300th moment of the final day, every eye turned to the stars. There was no announcement, no fireworks, only a silence so profound it felt sacred. At the Azarion Spatial Nexus, results streamed in. A total of 814,27 planets had qualified to vote. Green, 50, 2.9%. Red, 47.1%. The galaxy had split itself in two, yet the Dominion took no action. They simply waited, and then something happened. Something even Voss had not foreseen. From the red-aligned worlds, strange signals began to surface, not declarations of war, but ancient human code. Underground networks, youth movements, working-class enclaves. They did not agree with their government's decision. They broke neural governance. They reclaimed broadcast stations. They unearthed buried human data vaults. They rose not to help Dominion win, but to stop their own species from betraying itself. A mirror virus began to spread, not through code, but through conscience. We did not vote green, but we will not choose the lie. We don't love humanity, but we are ready to look them in the eyes. On Myre 9, the ideological New Berlin of the stars, a 9-year-old child recited a banned poem written by a human martyr executed 200 years earlier, and the entire planetary education system collapsed overnight. At Echelon Drift, a high-tier AI refused to continue serving the Council. Instead, it chose to reformat itself, vowing to learn human emotion from scratch without filters. Its farewell note read, "I was taught that humanity was a flaw, but if love can be born from a flaw, then I choose the flaw." In the end, the Dominion sent their final transmission. They would not return. They would not govern. They would only open a gate. A region was born, the Memory Zone, a constellation of neutral planets built with both Dominion technology and unaltered fragments of Earth's legacy. A sanctuary not for governance, but for remembrance. There were no schools, no laws, only the mirror. At the center of the Memory Zone stood a vast liquid mirror, but it reflected no physical form. Instead, it revealed only the memories each being had once denied. A senior judge collapsed in tears as the mirror showed the hand of the human woman who had saved his life as a child, a memory long erased. A rebel soldier took his own life after the mirror showed him his own eyes, as he executed a mother from Earth, singing a lullaby to her child. And Voss, leader of the Dominion, approached the mirror alone. He saw no battles, no blood, only the face of his mother, a human whom he had long believed dead. She said nothing, only looked at him. And then the mirror shattered, because once truth is no longer something you see, but something you live, the mirror is no longer needed. 43, 0 light-years away. A star ignited, one that followed no celestial rhythm. Astronomers named it Nova Memoria, the star of remembrance. But others, quietly, whispered another name, the heart of humanity, because in every ray it cast, there was a soundless murmur. I am still here. In everyone who chose to remember. Thank you for traveling with us through another dimension where truth, memory, and belief collide to give birth to new stars. If this story moved you, made you reflect, or simply stretched your imagination just a little further, leave us a comment below. We'd love to know, would you choose the red button or the green? Do you believe humanity still has a chance? Or have we gone too far? And what do you want the next chapter to explore? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a journey across the stars. Here on Cosmic Hypothesis, every video is a theory, every question a doorway. And you, yes, you are the one holding the key. We'll see you in the next voyage. And remember, in this vast universe, nothing is more powerful than a mind that still dares to dream. Cosmic Hypothesis, decoding the universe through the deepest imagination. Greetings to you, tiny planet in the infinite.